Hi, everybody. Welcome to Masterbooks, the Recipe for Homeschool Success Summit. We are having a great time in this summit. And today, day two, we are in the science track. I am talking to Debbie Lawrence and Katelyn Morris. We are talking about God's Design for Science, God's Design series, elementary to, I'll let you tell the details, science series. And it's really one of our most popular series that we have. And one of the unique things about it is it spans many ages. And so we want to talk today about family style learning with God's Design. So I want to introduce you to Debbie Lawrence and Katelyn Morris. Debbie, tell us about yourself.
Well, I am the author of the God's Design Science series, and I have been homeschooling for about 22 years. I have 4 adult children, and I have a son that was our grandson, and we adopted him, and he's now 8. And so I'm doing the whole homeschooling thing all over again.
I love it.
I wrote God's Design Science with my children who are now adults. When we first started homeschooling, I started, just kind of putting together our science curriculum just from books from the library. And we started going to homeschool conferences, and we came across Ken Ham from Answers in Genesis and realized that teaching science from a biblical perspective was really critical. Mm-hmm. And by putting together our science curriculum from books from the library, we were not getting that. And I really looked around and couldn't find anything that really fit our needs for what we were doing. And I wanted to be able to teach all of my 4 children science together from a biblical perspective. And there just really wasn't much out there. And so we went out on a limb, and my husband and I said, well, let's write our own curriculum. And it's been a crazy journey since then. But since then, we've written 12 titles, which are put together into 4 sets. We have a set on life science, earth science, chemistry and ecology, and physical science. And each of those books can be used with multiple ages, because I had children who, when we first started, were like kindergarten through 5th grade. And then as we wrote them, of course, got older. Mm-hmm. And just tried to write books that we could teach all of them together from a biblical Christian perspective.
That's beautiful. I love how when you have a need and you work with the Lord to fill it, then the Lord will take it and help so many people. There's no way you could have imagined when you were writing that for yourself.
Never imagined it would go where it's gone. So
yeah, what a beautiful thing.
Go to Kinko's and print off 20 copies. We weren't thinking of it becoming what it has. And we're just thankful that God has taken us where he has.
Mm-hmm. You brought your loaves and your fishes, and he did the rest.
That's right.
Well, Katelyn, tell us about yourself.
Hey guys, I'm one of the moderators in the App and Moms of Masterbooks Facebook group. So I get the joy of bringing encouragement, helping answer questions, or provide ideas or inspiration to moms as they use our Masterbooks products. Getting to see all of the comments and posts that come through, we get to see a lot of the same themes, and we're able to direct and help moms make the most of Masterbooks and continue to homeschool. I have 4 children, and they were all born in a 5-year time span, one after the other. And so when we decided to homeschool, it just got crazy really fast. Mm-hmm. I even started to take videos back then of what it was like to homeschool with a very firstborn natured boy trying so hard in kindergarten to do what he was supposed to do, or maybe he was 1st grade. And the 2 middle ones were trying so hard to learn their letters. And then the baby or the toddler just came through and grabbed their papers and tore it up and ran across the room with it. And I just had those moments of how are we going to do this? But I'm so glad we stuck with it, because now the youngest is 8 and the oldest is going to be entering high school. And it has been worth it to stick through those more challenging years. And the joy of seeing them learn together, for better or worse, has been totally amazing. So that's my encouragement to moms in those young years. Stick with it. They actually are learning all
Yes.
kinds of lessons, in fact, and just stick with it because it's really fun and there's a lot of joy in that chaos, even though it can feel a little overwhelming at times. It's actually pretty fun.
Well, I love that you have real world, both of you, real world homeschooling experience with multiple ages and real world stories about how it can become chaos. But also, you've used masterbooks for a while. And I know, Katelyn, that you've seen how it has worked to teach together, even though there are some obstacles and bumps in the road. Masterbooks works really hard to take any extra pressure or stress out of the planning and the teaching so that it is as easy as it can be with the family that you have. So, Debbie, I want to talk about the different books and levels. You mentioned the books, but let's talk about the age ranges and the beginner books and just when they go to masterbooks.com and search for science as a subject or search God's design, they'll find all these options and there'll be a link that you can look for those. But I want you to just kind of give an overview of who you are teaching to.
Okay. In each set, so if you buy a set of books, you'll get the student's book and then the teacher's book. And in that student's book, there are basically 3 titles. So, for example, if you were to buy the God's Design for Life, you would get the student book would have God's Design for the world of plants, the world of animals, and the human body. Okay. And so those are kind of your basic areas of life science. Mm-hmm. And each of those titles has 35 lessons in it. And they're basically geared for about 3rd through 8th grade. And I know that's a large range. And part of that is the way the lesson is set up is there's the main part of the lesson that everybody does together. And then there's a taking it further or the challenge section that is for older students. And so that challenge section would be more for your middle school students. And so everybody can learn the main part of the lesson together, and then older students can do this additional part and learn more. Often that has an additional experiment or something like that that is more geared for older students. In addition to the lesson part that you would read together, a hands-on experiment or activity that the students can do. And then there are review questions and then some questions that are called taking it further questions, which are really more application questions. And so the review questions cover the basic material that was in the lesson. And then those taking it further questions, I wrote those really trying to encourage students to take what you just learned and maybe apply it in a different situation. Think about, how this might work in some other area. And so those answers aren't necessarily in the book. And there's not always necessarily a right or wrong answer to those questions. And so it's just to help get the student thinking about what they just learned more than just reiterating what they just learned.
Okay.
And so, the main books can be used for that 3rd through 8th grade. Mm-hmm. And then in addition, we have what are called the beginner books for life science and earth science. And those are really aimed at kindergarten through 2nd grade. Mm-hmm. They go lesson for lesson right along with the books for the older students. And so if you have, littler kids, the younger elementary kids, they can be learning the same thing right along with the older brothers and sisters. But they have worksheet pages and coloring pages and things that are more appropriate for those younger kids.
I love that. And I love that it's lesson for lesson, just exactly what the older students are going through so that they can feel a part and you can have a nice table full of children all learning the same topic. And then you can talk about it as you do life. Everybody's learned something really similar and some more than others. So what a great idea to have it spread out so you can actually go from K through 8, right?
That is the intention, yes.
Okay. So as you said, there are 4 in the series, and the only 2 that have the K through 2 is Life, God's Design for Life,
right,
and then Heaven and Earth.
The Heaven and Earth, right.
Okay. beginners. So we invite you to check those out. You can download free PDF samples of every one of them so you can see how they work together. And also, we've got a lot of moms in the Moms of Masterbooks Facebook group, as well as the Masterbooks app. You can reach out there and ask your questions to find out how other families have used this same curriculum. So
real quick, there's also an additional schedule that's alternative that helps moms use that schedule for when she wants to combine those beginner levels with those upper levels for God's Design for Life in Heaven and Earth. And you can find those at masterbooks.com/classroom aids. Okay. And that should take you to our supplemental helps. And those two alternative schedules are there that moms can use to follow to combine those various levels. That might be helpful to some mom trying to figure out how to patch them together for those various ages.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. That's very important information. I'm sure people are like, wait, we didn't know that existed. So let's talk about the experiment in this particular series, because we have other series for this age group. So I want to make sure everybody understands that there's similarities, there are differences. And so talk about how this one is as far as reading content, writing content, and experiment content. What should they expect?
I know that it depends on, how old your child is, whether you want them to read the lesson themselves. Mm-hmm. When I had 4 children, I just read it out loud to them so that we could do it all together. Mm-hmm. And the lesson length really varies from lesson to lesson, depending on what's being covered, but probably less than 10 minutes of reading to cover the material. And then there is like I mentioned, the questions, and those can be done orally. And if you have, several different ages, that's what I did and continue to do with my grandchildren, is mostly do them orally. But there are definitely worksheet pages so that if you want your child to write out the answers, the questions are on the worksheets, and so they can do that. And, there's usually 3 or 4 of those review questions, and then, 2 or 3 taking it further questions that you can decide if you want your child to do that. And then there's the experiment, and there's an experiment. Sometimes it's an activity more like, a scavenger hunt or something like that, rather than what you think of as an experiment where you're, doing a chemistry experiment or something like that. Mm-hmm. But there is some sort of hands-on activity with every lesson. Okay. And, that generally, again, is going to take, 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay. And the supply, if there are supplies needed, those are listed in the lesson as well.
They are. And I'm working with Master's Books right now to put together some supply kits that are going to be available for every one of the books. So there'll be 6 different kits. So if you're just doing the beginner's kit, there will be a kit just for, Life for Beginners. And then there'll be a kit for each set of books. And those kits will contain the vast majority of what you need to do all of the experiments in the whole book. And so we're putting these together just to make it easier for moms to be able to have what they need on hand.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
And those will be available pretty soon.
Oh, good. Thank you for telling us about that. Katelyn, let's talk about the schedule and how a homeschool mom can fit this into her week. How is God's design laid out? Because with all Master Books curriculum, part of what we're trying to do to help the mom is to make the schedule really simple. And so I want to just give them an idea of what they're looking at.
Yes, so Master Books has a daily schedule in the front of the teacher's guide. Wherever there's a separate teacher's guide that's separate from the student's book, you're going to find your daily schedule in the teacher's guide. And it's listed very clearly for you. Read these pages, and it tells you what book to read it in. And then it tells you what activity page to do or worksheet to do. And it's laid out for 5 days a week. And in the beginners books, they are an all-in-one book. So your schedule will be in there. And it's very organized just to help you know this is how it's designed to be used. And you as the mom have the freedom to make those adaptations and to use it in the schedule that works for you. I know a lot of families like mine were involved in an enrichment program that takes up most of one of our days of the week. Okay. And by the time we get back, sure, I could make everybody do stuff, but no one would be in a very good mood because we're all tired. So we just kind of take that day and we try to, morph the suggested schedule into 4 days. And that's what we do for our family. And so you can look at the activities for the week or the lessons for the week and say, well, which day are we going to double up, or are we going to just kind of flow into the summer? And you can make those adaptations as you go. Along with that, there's some academy courses for some of the God's design levels that we can implement in as well and use them before the lesson, use them as we will to be flexible. Mm-hmm. And that flexibility just helps us live life as moms and make it work for our kids and know that it doesn't have to take all day to get this done. And we don't have to make everyone suffer in order to learn. Learning can be enjoyable and sweet. You can learn through the section on God's design for life about plants. And if you want to adapt when to do that unit, the book starts with plants. But if you want to save it for the spring, if you're in a 4-season, environment, save that for spring. And then when the plants are starting to bloom, do your lesson and then go outside and get your hands on those plants and get into the world of plants, or take a walk and then look for the things that you just learned about. So it's very flexible to make it work for you and your learning goals for your children.
I love that. I love that there's some flexibility within the book of when to do which section. That's really a great way to look at it. And speaking of a great way to look at it, Debbie, tell us about your Grandma Science Days.
Okay. I have, like I mentioned, I have an 8-year-old son, and then I have a 9-year-old granddaughter and a 12-year-old grandson that live nearby. Okay. And so once a week, my grandkids come over and we have what we call Grandma Science Day. And we've been doing this for several years now. Mm-hmm. And so when we get together, we choose one of the books, because we only do it once a week. We can't do all of life science in 1 year. And so together we choose which one we want to do. And this past school year, we just did the properties of atoms and molecules together. And so I read the lesson out loud to them, and then we do the questions, and then we do the experiment together. And it's just a really fun way to spend some time with my grandkids and to help share my passion for science with them. Right. And so we do that. It's just really a lot of fun.
I love it. I think I just imagine your grandchildren when they get older talking about Grandma Science Days together.
Yeah. And even now, every year we'll say, what was the favorite thing you did in school this year? And they always say, oh, Grandma Science Day. So they love it and I love it. We get to spend time together doing something fun.
Yeah. So maybe you all would like to institute Grandma Science Day or Grandpa Science Day or Aunt Science Day, whatever it is. I think that's such a neat idea, just to make it memorable and fun. And like you said, that's what they like the best when they look back on the year. That's really fun. I love it. Well, is there anything else y'all would like to tell those who are watching or listening about God's design for science?
I did want to mention about the academy courses. Oh, yeah. We currently have available, pardon me, courses for the heaven and earth, chemistry and ecology, and the physical world. I will be working on the life science this year, so it will be ready probably by next summer sometime.
Right. And for those of you who are not familiar with Masterbooks Academy, that is an online learning portal where we offer some standalone courses as well as enrichment or supplemental courses to the curriculum. So you don't have to have it. It's optional, but it is a great additional teacher, additional way for them to interact with the material, and we highly suggest it. So Katelyn, does your family use it?
We do. Actually, I have combined my middle kids that are closest in age, so that makes them 1 grade year apart. Mm-hmm. So they have been combined on all subjects other than their math, reading, and their language. So they've been combined for all their electives, their science, their history, geography, and all those all throughout, because that's been one of the ways to make it a little easier for me. And they're really funny because you know how siblings like to keep up with one another or sort of outdo each other in a hopefully fun way. Anyways, they have been doing that. And so she is just neck and neck with him on the math and the language and all of that, even though she'd be considered a grade lower. So it's been really fun to see them learn together, and they learn from one another. So when one child is reading the lesson and they mispronounce a word, they can have a really good laugh about it because the other person will catch them on it and say, oh, that's not how you say that. And then, but the mispronunciation actually helps them remember the vocabulary word or the lesson. And it's just been so fun because you don't have to make your kids want to learn. They naturally want to learn. And, you know, they could be watching their academy video. They can be doing their lesson. And here comes the younger kid. And you didn't even have to invite them. They just naturally want to know what's going on. I want to be a part of that. That looks fun. Can I pour that in? Can I color? And so what's really great is if you're going to combine some of the beginner levels with some of the upper levels, you can actually use them together. You could read the lesson from one of the upper levels and for life or heaven and earth, and utilize maybe the worksheet for a younger child, and they get to be a part of it as well, and they can color it because Master Books has their books organized with perforated pages, with hole punches already in them, and so you can utilize those. You can get the PDF, print out as you go, just what you need. You can make a little binder for a younger student. And there's so many ways to adapt and make it fun for everybody. But you don't have to force anyone to learn because they naturally want to do it. You know, we have at our house a really big yard, and they're never all over the whole yard separately. Nope, they're always right on top of each other, no matter where they are. They're all, you know, for better or worse, you know, fights and all, they're right on top of each other because no one wants to miss out. And God's design is designed so beautifully where it's captivating and exciting for the kids to learn about science, and everyone's drawn in to want to see what are we learning about, and it's just really fun. And because we've stuck with it, this is what they're used to. They are used to school is a pillar of our family. Like that is our routine and our rhythm, and it's what we do. So they all want to know what each other is learning about, and it's a natural thing. That's a lot of fun for us and for a lot of families as well.
I love that. Well, thank you both so much for taking the time to share about God's design and to share your experience with it. We thank you for writing it, Debbie, and we thank you for teaching it to your grandchildren. I think that's so fun, so neat. Thank you, Katelyn, for all you do to help the moms of Master Books in both of our community platforms and today. So thank you, everybody, for being here and listening, and we will see you back on the next talk.
Hey.
Bye.
Bye.